What if prosperity isn't random? What if wealth isn't about luck, timing, or hard work alone, but about invisible spiritual laws that quietly shape everything you touch? The world tells you that success is a gamble, but Jewish wisdom says something startling. Prosperity is no accident. It follows order, rhythm, divine intelligence. Ignore that order and you chase endlessly. Align with it, and life begins to chase you. For years, I believed money favored the lucky, the bold, the privileged, the ones who seemed born beneath brighter stars. But then I began studying ancient teachings, the kind that survived wars, exiles, centuries. They spoke of something deeper, that abundance isn't a lottery, it's a covenant. Every blessing is built on laws that govern both heaven and earth. Those who understand them move differently. They work with flow, not force. You might not see those laws at first, but they operate like gravity. Whether you believe or not, they pull on you all the same. Jewish sages didn't separate spirit from substance. To them, your business and your soul are bound by the same energy. Every transaction, every word, every intention carries spiritual weight. That's why they said, prosperity is a mirror. It reflects what you believe about yourself and about God. So before we go deeper, I want you to take a moment for something symbolic. In the comments, write one sentence that captures how you currently see your prosperity. It could be, money slips away from me, or I always have to fight for success, or maybe, wealth comes when I least expect it. Don't overthink it. Just write the first thing that feels true. Why? Because words are anchors. By naming your belief, you bring it into the light. And once it's seen, it can be changed. In Jewish mysticism, every word you speak carries creative power. Speech builds worlds. When you declare your truth, even silently, you begin to rewrite it. This comment isn't just interaction, it's participation. It turns this video into your mirror, a reflection of how your energy meets prosperity. I want you to remember that phrase you write, because we'll return to it later. You'll look at it again, and by the end of this journey, it won't describe you anymore. It will describe the person you used to be. This isn't another motivational talk. This is about learning 10 timeless rules, ancient, sacred, practical, that reveal why prosperity is a deliberate consequence, not a coincidence. Each rule unlocks a different layer of spiritual law, connecting ethics, gratitude, purpose, and the hidden architecture of wealth. Because when you understand that prosperity is designed, not random, you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? So let's begin with the first rule, one that challenges the very foundation of modern success. Wealth is a gift, not a gamble. Wealth, in Jewish wisdom, is not a game of chance. It's a sacred trust. The first rule says, wealth is a gift, not a gamble. Every coin, every opportunity, every open door is part of a divine equation that tests how you use what you receive. You don't win wealth, you are entrusted with it. The Talmud teaches that everything we possess is borrowed from the Creator, on one condition, that we use it with purpose. In this view, money is neither moral nor immoral. It's neutral energy, waiting for your intention to give it direction. The question isn't, do I have enough? It's, what do I do with what I have? Most people chase prosperity like gamblers at a table, hoping to catch a lucky break, praying the next turn will favor them. But Jewish wisdom reverses the perspective. Prosperity doesn't respond to chance. It responds to character. If your hands are open to give, your mind honest in earning, and your heart grateful in spending, wealth becomes a blessing. If not, it becomes a burden that devours its owner from within. My father once told me a story about a merchant who prayed every morning, God, give me enough so that I may share. He worked hard, but never hoarded. Every profit became a portion for charity, every deal an act of gratitude. When asked his secret, he said, I treat money as if it belongs to heaven, and heaven never lets me lack. That is the essence of this rule. Wealth is not proof of divine favoritism. It's an invitation to divine partnership. There's power in seeing money as a gift because it humbles you. It softens the ego. It reminds you that abundance doesn't make you superior, it makes you responsible. You begin to understand that every transaction has a spiritual echo. You're not just moving numbers, you're moving energy through a moral universe. But when you see money as a gamble, you fall into fear. You cling, compare, and compete. You think you need to cheat luck, manipulate outcomes, or outpace others. And that's where corruption begins. Not in the act of earning, but in the belief that you must take what wasn't meant for you. Jewish wisdom invites you to flip that belief. Stop playing against the universe and start playing with it. The moment you recognize wealth as a sacred trust, the tension of scarcity begins to fade. You stop chasing and start aligning. This is why the Torah calls wealth beracha, a blessing. But blessings, when mishandled, can turn into curses. A blessing has boundaries. It demands integrity. Because if wealth is a divine gift, then it also carries divine responsibility. And that leads us to the second rule, one that tests the very core of your character. Earn with integrity, or your fortune will fracture from within. The second rule demands something rare in a world obsessed with speed and shortcuts. Earn with integrity. Because if wealth is a gift, then how you receive it defines whether it blesses or breaks you. In Jewish wisdom, integrity isn't just moral, it's magnetic. The Talmud teaches that one of the first questions a soul is asked after death is, "Did you conduct your business faithfully?" That means honesty in trade, fairness in contracts, and compassion in profit. The sages understood something our modern minds often forget. The spiritual world responds to your ethics long before it responds to your effort. When you betray your values for gain, the transaction doesn't end when the deal is signed. It continues inside you. The numbers might go up, but your peace begins to drop. You can buy comfort, but not clarity. You can secure wealth, but not worth. That's the silent price of dishonest gain. Your fortune expands while your soul shrinks. I once met a man who was admired by everyone in his industry. He had money, power, the respect of his peers. Until one night, he confessed to me, "I've built an empire of anxiety. Every deal I made left a crack inside me. Now I can't sleep." He wasn't cursed by failure. He was haunted by success without integrity. Jewish teachings warn that unjust profit carries spiritual weight. Money gained through deceit doesn't stay. It slips away in unexpected ways. Failed ventures, broken trust, strained relationships. Not as punishment, but as correction. The universe doesn't allow imbalance to last forever. Integrity, by contrast, attracts sustenance that lasts. When your earnings align with honesty, your money carries light. It flows cleanly. You spend without guilt, you give without fear, and you rest without regret. That peace becomes your greatest form of wealth. To earn with integrity is more than following rules. It's about intention. Do you see the other person in your transaction as a soul, or as a means to an end? Are your decisions guided by conscience or convenience? Each coin, each signature, each promise reveals who you are becoming. The Torah doesn't separate the sacred from the practical. Your shop, your contract, your labor are altars where character is tested daily. That's why honesty in business is considered a form of worship. Every ethical act in the marketplace is a silent prayer. And here's the hidden secret. Integrity doesn't slow prosperity, it accelerates it. Because when people trust your name, your energy multiplies. Opportunities find you. Your reputation becomes your currency. So guard your wealth at its roots, in the soil of truth. The higher you grow, the deeper those roots must hold. But even integrity alone isn't enough. There's another law at play, one that flips the logic of success upside down. It's the paradox that true prosperity begins not when you receive, but when you give. The third rule overturns the logic of the modern world. Give before you gain. To most people, that sounds impossible, even reckless. But in Jewish wisdom, giving is not an afterthought of abundance, it is the source of it. The Hebrew word tzedakah is often translated as charity, but its true meaning is far deeper. It comes from tzedek, which means justice. In other words, Generosity is not optional kindness. It's moral alignment. Giving restores balance between what you've received and what you owe to the world that sustains you. Ancient sages taught that when you give, you don't lose. You make space for more. They compared it to a vessel that can only be refilled when it's poured out. If you hold on too tightly, your hand closes. If you release, your palm opens. And so does the flow. I once heard a story about a merchant who struggled in business. Every time his profits grew, he spent everything on himself, fearing lack. One day, an old rabbi told him, "You're trying to fill a bucket that has no bottom. Give first, and you'll discover where the hole really is." Against all logic, the merchant began setting aside a portion of every sale for those in need. Within a year, his fortune stabilized. He said, "I stopped feeding my fear and started feeding my faith." Jewish mysticism sees generosity as divine partnership. The Creator gives you resources to see what you'll do with them, whether you'll circulate the blessing or block it. When you give before you gain, you prove that you trust the source more than the supply. And trust in spiritual economics is the most valuable currency. This rule applies beyond money. You can give time, attention, encouragement, forgiveness. Every act of giving releases abundance in a different form. When you pour energy into others, it circles back amplified. That's not superstition. It's the physics of the soul. Think of your life as a river, not a reservoir. When a river flows, it stays clear and full. When it's dammed, it stagnates. Many people pray for blessings but build walls against them. The act of giving breaks those walls. It tells the universe, "I'm ready to flow." So here's a challenge for you. Before this weekend's, give something. Not when it's easy, but when it stretches you. Don't calculate. Don't wait for enough. Give from where you are, not where you wish to be. Because giving isn't about the amount. It's about alignment. When you give before you gain, you remind life that you trust its rhythm. You become part of the current instead of clinging to the shore. But generosity has a secret rival, one that often disguises itself as peace. It's called comfort. And that brings us to the fourth rule. Stay in motion. Avoid settling. The fourth rule warns us of a subtle but powerful trap. Stay in motion. Avoid settling. Because comfort is the most silent form of decline. You don't feel it happening. It seduces you gently, whispering, "You've done enough. Rest now." But Jewish wisdom teaches that creation itself is movement, and to stop growing is to step out of alignment with the very pulse of life. The book of Genesis never says that God stopped creating. It says He rested. Rest was renewal, not resignation. The seventh day wasn't the end of creation. It was the breath between beats. That rhythm, that divine motion, is the same rhythm that sustains prosperity. You work, you pause, you learn, you evolve. But you never stay still. When you believe you've arrived, you begin to decay. Success is not a destination, it's a discipline. Every blessing demands maintenance. The same river that brings nourishment can drown you if you stop paddling. I once knew a man who built a thriving business from nothing. For years, he hustled with vision and faith, but after one big win, he relaxed, not out of joy, but out of ego. He said, "I've made it." Within a few years, the business faltered. He had mistaken comfort for completion. Later, he admitted, "My hunger died before my work did." In Jewish thought, the soul is compared to fire. It must keep feeding to stay alive. The moment you stop learning, challenging, and contributing, the flame dims. Even in wealth, a restless spirit is sacred. It keeps your heart awake. Prosperity is not measured by accumulation but by continuation. This law is woven into nature. Look at the seasons, constant transformation. The tree never says, "I've grown enough." It sheds, renews, stretches again. The same applies to the human spirit. The moment you cling to yesterday's success, you deny tomorrow's potential. Psychology agrees. When your mind stops facing challenge, it loses vitality. The brain literally begins to dull without novelty or purpose. That's why fulfillment fades in the absence of growth. So here's a practice. At the end of each week, ask yourself, where did I move this week, mentally, spiritually, or materially? If the answer is nowhere, you've already begun to drift. Movement doesn't always mean motion. Sometimes it's inner expansion, a new skill, a new act of kindness, a new layer of gratitude. The Torah calls this principle hishtadlut, effort. You are never done trying because the world is never done evolving. As long as you breathe, there is work meant for you, lessons meant for you, abundance meant for you. But motion isn't only physical or practical, it's linguistic. Even the way you speak determines whether you move forward or freeze in place. And that takes us to the fifth rule, one that reveals the creative power of every syllable you speak. Speak the language of abundance. The fifth rule is a quiet revolution. Speak the language of abundance. Because your words don't describe your reality, they design it. Every phrase you repeat is a blueprint your soul tries to build. In Jewish mysticism, speech is sacred. The entire universe began not with effort, but with sound. And God said, "Let there be light." That single sentence birthed creation itself. The sages taught that when we speak, we echo that divine act. We shape worlds with our tongues. But here's the problem. Most of us speak in the language of lack. We say, "I'll never have enough. This is too hard." That's just how life is. Each of those statements becomes a quiet command to the universe. Keep things small. And the universe, ever obedient, listens. The ancient rabbis used to warn their students, do not curse your fortune with your own mouth. Because they understood that your words are not harmless. They are energy released into motion. When you speak fear, you give it form. When you speak faith, you give it wings. Once, an old teacher told me, never say, "I'm broke." Say, "I'm between blessings." He said it with a grin, but I felt the truth of it. When you say you're broke, he said, you tell heaven you've reached the end. But when you say you're between blessings, you tell heaven you're still waiting at the door. That shift isn't denial, it's declaration. Science agrees. Neuroscience shows that the brain doesn't distinguish between inner thought and external truth. When you say, "I can't," your nervous system believes it's a fact, not a fear. It releases stress hormones, closes creative pathways, and shuts down possibility. But when you say, "I'm finding a way," your body adjusts toward that goal. The chemistry of hope replaces the chemistry of defeat. Your vocabulary is your vibration. To change your life, change your language. Replace "I have to" with "I get to." Replace "I'm unlucky" with "I'm learning." Replace "I'm losing everything" with "I'm making room for something new." These are not just words, they are alignments. The Torah calls this concept Koch Hadibur, the power of speech. It teaches that every word you utter is an act of creation or destruction. To speak abundance is to live in conscious authorship of your world. So tonight, listen to your language. Notice the moments when scarcity slips into your sentences, and gently replace it with faith. Because abundance begins long before you see it. It begins when you say it. And yet, even the most powerful words lose their light if they serve only the self. True prosperity extends beyond your mouth, your mind, and your wallet. It lives in connection, the shared flow between souls. That's why the next rule is essential. Prosperity is built in community. The sixth rule reveals a sacred pattern hidden in plain sight. Prosperity is built in community. Because no one truly becomes wealthy alone, not in the Jewish sense of the word. Wealth, in its highest form, is not about accumulation, it's about connection. The Hebrew concept of aravut means mutual responsibility. Each person is bound to the other. This principle sits at the heart of Jewish life. Every blessing that comes to you is meant to move through you. You are a link in a divine chain of giving, a vessel that channels abundance toward others. When you forget that, your blessings begin to dry up. In the Torah, landowners were commanded to leave the corners of their fields unharvested so that the poor could gather from them. It wasn't an act of generosity, it was an act of justice. It reminded every worker that their success existed within a shared ecosystem. Prosperity was never private property. It was sacred trust distributed among souls. Modern life, however, preaches the opposite. It tells us to compete, to isolate, to guard what's ours. But competition without compassion breeds fear, and fear repels abundance. Jewish wisdom teaches that wealth multiplies when it circulates, when it nourishes more than one. I once knew a woman who ran a small bakery in Haifa. She could barely cover rent some months, yet every Friday she baked extra bread to give away before Shabbat. When I asked why, she said, "Because if my oven feeds only me, it becomes cold." Years later, her bakery grew into a thriving business. People said she had good luck, but she didn't. She had flow. Community creates spiritual flow. When you help someone rise, the current that lifts them also lifts you. This isn't charity, it's symmetry. The Kabbalists described it beautifully. Blessing dwells only where it can be shared. Even your words, your time, your kindness. These are forms of wealth that can be invested in others. A single encouragement, a single shared resource, a single gesture of generosity can alter the trajectory of another person's life. That ripple is part of your prosperity's true legacy. Ask yourself, who benefits when I grow? Who am I lifting with me? If the answer is no one, your success is still incomplete. Real wealth builds bridges, not thrones. The secret is this: community amplifies abundance because unity mirrors creation itself. Just as no cell in the body thrives alone, no soul prospers in isolation. Connection is the natural habitat of blessing. So take one small action. Reach out to someone this week. Offer guidance, gratitude, or grace. Not because you owe it, but because it keeps your oven warm. Yet even in the warmth of community, there lies a danger. The moment when the tool of abundance tries to become your master. That's why the next rule warns, let money serve you, never serve money. The seventh rule is a warning wrapped in wisdom. Let money serve you, never serve money. Because the moment wealth becomes your master, your soul becomes its servant, and no fortune, no matter how vast, is worth that price. Money is meant to be a tool, a sacred instrument through which you build, bless, and repair. In Hebrew, wealth is called mammon, a word that carries both promise and peril. It represents material strength, but also moral testing. The Talmud teaches, a person is recognized by their cup, their anger, and their pocket. In other words, how you handle pleasure, pressure, and possession reveals your true self. Serving money is easy to justify. It hides behind ambition, responsibility, even love. You tell yourself you're working for your family, for security, for a better life. But slowly, your worth begins to hinge on numbers. You check your balance before you check your peace. Your self-respect rises and falls with market trends. Without noticing, you've built a golden cage, one that glitters beautifully but locks silently. I met a man once who had everything, the mansion, the cars, the empire. But he confessed, I don't own my wealth, it owns me. Every morning I wake up afraid it will vanish. His fortune was enormous, yet he lived like a beggar of certainty, constantly feeding an appetite that never felt full. Then there was Miriam, a teacher I knew in Jerusalem. Her salary was modest, but her freedom was immeasurable. She would say, money is my student. I tell it where to go, to my table, to my neighbor, to the next soul in need. Her joy wasn't in what she had, but in the harmony between her values and her spending. She was rich in the truest sense. Her money worked for her mission, not the other way around. To let money serve you means to assign it purpose. Every dollar, every shekel, every resource should answer to your vision, not your vanity. Ask yourself, does my money reflect my values? Does it bring me closer to my highest self, or chain me to my lowest fears? The Torah reminds us, silver is mine and gold is mine, says the Lord. It's a humbling reminder. We are stewards, not owners. When you see yourself as caretaker instead of conqueror, money loses its power to corrupt. You begin to master it by remembering it was never truly yours. So take back your authority. Redefine the role of money in your story. Use it to serve life, to fund kindness, to sustain meaning, to create beauty. Because money without mission is weight, money with purpose is light. But once you've mastered money, a deeper question arises, one that transcends ownership and dives into impact. What will your wealth leave behind? That's where the next rule begins, the rule of legacy. The eighth rule reaches beyond this moment, beyond possessions, beyond even your name. Invest for legacy, not vanity. Because the goal of prosperity is not to shine in your lifetime, it's to cast light long after you're gone. In Jewish wisdom, legacy is not what you leave to people, it's what you leave within them. The Talmud teaches, the righteous leave their wisdom to their children. That means that your greatest inheritance isn't material, it's moral. The values you live by become the currency your descendants will spend long after your coins have turned to dust. Vanity seeks applause. Legacy seeks alignment. Vanity wants to be remembered. Legacy wants to make a difference. And yet, vanity often disguises itself as purpose. It tells you to build something lasting, but what it really means is loud. Legacy, on the other hand, is quiet. It's the tree that keeps giving fruit even when no one remembers who planted it. I once visited an old philanthropist in Jerusalem whose name appeared nowhere on the buildings he funded. When I asked why, he smiled and said, "If they remember me, I did it wrong." I want them to remember the door that opened for them, not the hand that built it. His wealth had become invisible, but its impact was eternal. That's legacy. Contrast that with another man who spent his fortune carving his name on everything he touched. Buildings, charities, even benches in public parks. Within years of his passing, most of those places had changed names. His vanity expired the moment he did. Legacy requires patience. Vanity wants recognition today. Legacy plans for a generation it will never meet. Jewish wisdom calls this zekut avat, the merit of the ancestors. It's the unseen blessing that flows through generations because someone before you acted with integrity, humility, and love. When you invest with legacy in mind, your money carries that same energy. It continues to work long after you've stopped. So, how do you invest for legacy? Start with intention. Support what outlives your ego: education, healing, art, justice, community. Every act that uplifts others writes your name in the scroll of eternity, even if no one speaks it aloud. Legacy doesn't always require great wealth, it requires great vision. You can mentor one person, start one act of kindness, write one truth that survives you. Every seed of goodness is a form of investment, one that pays dividends in spirit, not currency. Ask yourself, if my fortune vanished tomorrow, what remains of me? If the answer is integrity, compassion, wisdom, then you've already succeeded. Because at the end of all gain, legacy is the only profit that lasts. It's not the numbers that echo, it's the names you bless. And as we arrive at the final chapter, everything converges. Giving, ethics, purpose, community, and humility into one truth. Prosperity is not what you have, it's who you become. The final rule ties every principle together. True prosperity is the harmony between growth and humility, between creation and surrender, between what your hands build and what your heart becomes. It's not about fortune, it's about formation. Jewish wisdom teaches that wealth and soul are never separate. The material is only sacred when it reflects the spiritual. The Torah says, "Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to gain wealth." That verse is not about permission, it's about perspective. Prosperity without remembrance becomes pride, but prosperity with awareness becomes purpose. The world often defines success by accumulation, how much you earn, own, or control. Yet the sages measured it differently. They asked, "Who is rich?" "The one who rejoices in his portion." That doesn't mean settling for less, It means celebrating what you have while continuing to grow. Gratitude doesn't cancel ambition, it refines it. It turns striving into service. To live by this rule is to walk the narrow bridge between contentment and expansion. On one side lies greed, on the other stagnation. Balance is the bridge, and awareness is the handrail that keeps you from falling. When you remember that everything you have is borrowed light, you carry it with care. You no longer ask, "How much more can I get?" but "How much brighter can I shine?" Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's the recognition that you are a channel, not a source, that the same energy that blessed you wants to bless through you. In that flow, there is no scarcity, only circulation. You don't hoard because you trust the return. You don't envy because you know the source is infinite. And growth, the other half of this rule, ensures that humility doesn't become passivity. The Creator didn't place you here to shrink. He placed you here to expand the good, to add light where there is darkness. Every day you are invited to create something, a word, a deed, a moment that didn't exist before you. That's divine partnership. When you integrate all 10 rules, prosperity stops being pursuit and becomes presence. You begin to see money not as master, not as measure, but as messenger, a reflection of your inner order. You recognize that success without soul is just noise, but success with purpose is music. Now return to the sentence you wrote at the beginning, that one line about your relationship with prosperity. Read it again. Does it still define you, or has something shifted? If it has, rewrite it. Not as confession, but as covenant. A new declaration of who you are becoming. Because prosperity was never an accident. It was always a reflection of divine design, waiting for you to remember that you were part of it all along.